All right, Matthew DeClerc, we are back with EP Monthly, September 2021. It's Hippo Education. We're in our remote studios. You've called me a guy who lives in a bunker. I appreciate that, and I'm going to wear that proudly. I want to show you my cool t-shirt again. Boom! That's Hippocrates in
Miami.
What do you call it? 3, exactly. There's an article on this month's issue here called In Defense of DL, In Defense of Direct Laryngoscopy. Is direct laryngoscopy a dying skill?
Yeah.
Richard Cunningham's gonna take one side, and then we have Andrew Kalnow doing potentially the other side. But as a guy who grew up 100% until I was a senior, maybe even after that, we didn't have video laryngoscopy. So I found it like it was my superhero skill to do this DL. But once I got it, I don't know. It is, maybe it's polarizing. I'm kind of,
this article,
I'm super glad I have the skill.
This article will also have a lot of feedback, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think, this, again, there's no black or white. Like, I'm a DL, I train in DL, but I also did a lot of VL. And so I feel comfortable actually doing both. But I got to tell you, when I'm out in the wilderness with my med kit, like, it's going to, DL is going to be the way to go sometimes. And so it ends up, and if you read Drew's article, it ends up being like, look, what are you most comfortable with, and what have you trained the most in? Because that's where you're going to do well, right? And the data for DL versus VL, which one's the best first pass, et cetera, that's coming out. And there's some studies that say VL is better and some that say, well, maybe DL is better. But in the end, you got to work with what you got. I think it's good to know both of them. But master one, and well, the other one's the backup anyway. So whether VL is the backup or DL is the backup, it's like either way you want to know how to do both. So that's kind of where I fall. And I guess this might end up just being a generational thing in terms of where you trained, what you did the most with, and moving on from there.
I do think and I got all the points in here. I do think there's a kind of a logical, it's pretty hard to argue that you shouldn't know how to do both of them. And even if it's just, and maybe, again, you're right, maybe it's just me being generational, but I have fears of cables going bad or whatever. Like that video turns off. It's hard for me to be dependent on something that has a very easy replacement if it goes south. It's like my mom wants a car with crank windows, right? She's like, those other electric windows always go bad. But when's the last time an electric window went bad? It was like 1998. So maybe she's right, but maybe she's wrong. I don't know.
There are things that are harder with video. Like it's harder to get foreign bodies out. Like that's legit. I like to see, if I'm going to go with my McGill's, I want DL, right? Like if I'm going to do my suction, I want DL. And so, I think it's too, it's too muddied for us to be like, no, this is the right way. But that's how we do things in emergency medicine. We like to argue about sucks versus rock versus this versus that, and then just in 20 years we might have an answer. There you go.
That's right.
In 20 years,
maybe. Anyway, super interesting. I like both. Thanks for the deep dive, guys.